Hello, you cheeky monkeys. Don't worry, this isn't me on this podcast at all. This was done by our very own Canadian Geoff, Mr. Hulenfurden. Oh, I can never get that right. Other Geoff, you may well know him. Today is December the 30th. It is now 9:59 p.m. and this is going to go out New Year's Day, about 4 p.m. UK time. I told Geoff I was doing this now, and he said, good job you're doing it now, because I said during the podcast that when we were recording it, that it's not a good time to be a Gooner, because we'd only just lost to Swansea. So he wanted me to put a little bit at the beginning of this podcast to say that it is actually a good time to be a Gooner, that when he recorded this, it was just after the Swansea game, and since the Swansea game, we're not doing too bad at all. So just wanted to put that little bit of information in there so that you don't listen to the podcast and think, what's Geoff on about? Those Canadians, they're all crazy. We're having a good run at the moment. So just so you know, this was recorded a few weeks ago and I'm only just getting around to doing it now. Happy New Year.
Hello and welcome to a Birdcamp Wonderland special book review. I'm the ABW chief blogger, the other Geoff, and tonight we are talking to husband and wife team Jordan and Channelle Wiebe of the Fresno Gooners. We're going to be talking to them about We All Follow the Arsenal, which is the book that they put out this summer. And I'm joined today not only by those folks, but by a man whose piratey misfits are so famous, they may have uncovered a booty of 3 points today. It's Mr. Kris Carpenter. Hello, Kris.
Hello, Geoff. I can confirm the rumours are true. There was a W on the board today.
That is fantastic. So, Kris, you're going to help me host with this crew from Fresno, California?
Yes, pleasure to be asked. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. And Jordan and Channelle, welcome to the show. Thanks for putting up with my introduction of Kris there. I appreciate it.
That was incredible.
We laughed pretty hard. We're impressed. We're impressed already.
That's one thing I've learned from Gunnar Gimli in his hosting is that we need to make fun of our co-hosts.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Getting proficient at it. So welcome to the show, guys. The book, We All Follow the Arsenal, it's been out now for about a month and a half. And I think before we get into that story, what I really like you guys to tell our audience, because they're listening all over the world, is tell us a bit about yourselves and maybe specifically, where is Fresno?
Sure. So Fresno is the easiest way to describe it. It's directly in between LA and San Francisco. It's about 3 hours to both. So it's on the west coast of the States. And it's kind of this farm town in the middle of a valley. So we're both from the area originally. And So Fresno, it's not a place that you necessarily want to spend most of your time, but it's a pretty cool little area. We like it.
What's the population?
It's like 500,000.
Yeah, so it's not like a small town, but it is completely agriculture based.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
We got a lot of smog too. It's really nice.
Yeah.
It's out on the west coast of the United States, California. It's nowhere near New York City.
No, it's actually about 3,400 miles away. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the idea behind the project, that we would travel across the country over and back again to see Arsenal play.
It's unbelievable that you would go that far. That's dedication. Now,
Chris,
in a car.
This is a perfect setup for this recording. Now, Kris, I understand you've got a question for Channelle and Jordan.
Yes, indeed. If I can just find them. The question I had to ask, obviously it's quite a far-flung place in the world to support Arsenal from. Can you give us a little bit of an insight as to what the sort of match day atmosphere is like in Fresno, and what kind of things go down when you're watching a live game?
Sure. So we have a pub downtown that we've been lucky enough to partner with them, and they show every single match the Arsenal plays, called Peeves Public House. It's kind of a weird name, but it's a pretty cool spot for us. Usually it's about 15, anywhere between 15 and 40 folks will show up for match days. And we actually had just started the group about 2 years ago, so we're fairly new. Everybody will get together. It's your classic pub, right? So you're gonna get a lot of really good beer. There's really good food. We've got the game actually projected onto a wall. So it's a real good atmosphere. We're trying to implement more singing into the atmosphere. Sometimes it's a bit of a struggle since not everybody knows all the songs. But we kind of pride ourselves on being a really open, welcoming, inclusive kind of community. So we've had folks from, we've actually had a few folks come over from the UK while on holiday and join us for matches. We've had folks from all over the country. We actually had a guy from Germany stop in with us a while back. Gooner on the road, Peter Anderson stopped in with us last year. So that's kind of what we try to do, is make sure that we're an open, welcoming kind of crew. So,
and does that Channelle, does that mean any particular sort of early mornings or late nights for certain games for you guys there, time wise?
Yeah, well, that was kind of, yesterday was a 7 a.m. kickoff for us. So that's a little bit early, but we had a 4:45 not too long ago, last weekend. So yeah, it's become kind of this, like, just how it is. Like, it's like going to work or something, like you just tell yourself, no, you have to do this. And sometimes I'll wake up and he's like, you don't have to go. And I was like, who the hell are you talking to? What do you mean I don't have to go? Because Jordan introduced me to Arsenal. And I actually worked at the pub that we have our matches at now. And he's kind of single-handedly spun this, like, whirlwind of Arsenal fandom. So it's been really cool to watch people get excited about soccer genuinely. And we're not lonely at 4:45 a.m.
Right.
So that's kind of nice.
I have the benefit of being in the same time zone as you, and
right.
Yeah.
last year seemed to be the 4:45 games seemed to be the struggle. They were the Chelseas and the Liverpool games,
Right, Liverpool,
where we had a tough go. But yeah, it can be tough. But you're absolutely right. It is sort of like going to work or going to church, even if the
right. It's like
so
you have your
inclined.
commitments, right? These are the things that we do.
We call it our religion. And our families now think that it is our church because, like, we're so tired on Sunday from Saturday that we don't go to church. So that's how it works.
I love it. I've had the benefit of visiting some of the supporter clubs, and of course we saw them in some of the FA Cup celebratory videos. And if anyone listening has the opportunity to visit one of the supporters clubs in Arsenal America or wherever you are in the world, I would highly recommend it. It is just a lot of fun and a lot of fellow Gooners there. Now, when we decided to start these book reviews, we'd had a conversation. We were sort of brainstorming books, and I actually thought about you guys pretty quickly. But it isn't a traditional book in the sense that the way it gets published and the way it became available. I can't go to Amazon.com and buy it. I can't go to my local bookstore and buy it. So tell us, like, how does this book come together? What's the genesis of this? How did you put it together? Let's tell the folks.
Sure. So initially, we had plans to go to the friendly against the New York Red Bulls. That Arsenal was coming over for their preseason kind of mini tour. And so the idea was that we knew we were going to go. But we didn't know if we were going to fly out there. Obviously, we've talked about the distance and everything. And we'd also been chatting about doing a road trip, just generally for the two of us. And so we kind of thought, hey, why don't we merge the two of those together? And it could be kind of this cool thing. We've also connected with quite a few other supporters clubs that have been fantastic people to just kind of connect with. And so it was one of those things where, hey, let's make a go of it and drive across the country and back again. So then we both are kind of inclined to creative pursuits. Channelle's a tattoo artist, and I've got a little bit of a background in design and photography. And so we were like, hey, it'd be really cool to kind of capture this growing soccer supporter culture in the US. It was something that as far as I could tell hadn't really been done yet. And so we were like, okay, well, if we want to make a book about this journey that we were going to take on, then we probably better find some financial backing. So we ended up running a Kickstarter that was incredibly successful, and it was completely word of mouth. I did quite a bit of grinding to get it out to folks like Tim at 7 a.m. Kickoff and Arseblog and Arsenal Fan TV, and getting those folks involved. And so they helped spread the word, and we sorted it. So we raised the money for the book, and that was kind of the beginning of it.
So I was really fortunate. You guys messaged me really early, and I was able to get on board. And having seen the book, I wish I'd given a little bit more to get a full copy of it.
Well, yeah, and
kind of kicking myself, but
yeah, well, that's the thing too, is because we weren't really sure how successful it could potentially be. We made the books only available to folks that backed the Kickstarter project, kind of an incentive to get a part of the. It really has become kind of a little community of folks. We've met so many people through that Kickstarter that we now count as friends, and I think that speaks to something pretty cool and unique amongst Arsenal fans. So
very, very cool. Kris, very cool. I understand you've got a question for the gang.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's sort of talk about the art itself for a bit, sort of in
Sure.
Collaborative terms of the process and what sort of artists were involved. How did you sort of go about sourcing the various artists? How did you get them involved? Did you have to sort of sell the idea of the sort of Arsenal theme, or did you have people in mind? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think, well, that's my background is in fine art. So when we started really putting the club together in general, that was an interest that I had, and Jordan, because he's more interconnected on the Twitters and all that, he would show me, these different people like Art of Sport, and 11 Cannons was really big, VCC Designs out in England, and he just would kind of pull them up and say, oh, look at what this guy's doing, and look at what this guy's doing, and I was interested in making prints of my own just because I do that all the time, and so when I find something I like, I want to make something about it, And so Arsenal was a natural thing, and learning the history, and there's just so much you can do with something that people love so much. So once we kind of were looking through the art pieces, and then the art hop came about in Fresno, and that was when we decided to kind of contact these people that we admired their work and see if they were interested in just kind of, sending us their stuff, and we would take care of the rest and kind of promoting it and just, getting connected through the art hop itself. And so most of those people that were kind of
a part of our art
show, part of that first art show, were the people that we really just loved their work, and that was kind of why we wanted them to be a part of it. And then we actually ended up meeting Alex McWatt in New York. He's a tattooer, and so that came about also through my job, and just was an amazing guy. And so he was kind of asking us if he could, and we're like, excuse me, you own 3 shops in New York, you're one of the best in the world, like, this is ridiculous,
and you happen to be an Arsenal fan,
come up to us and say, hey, do you mind if I submit a painting for your book? And it's like, yeah, no, we're from Fresno and we're a big deal, so I'm not sure. So it was just really very organic. It was such a just a real, I really really appreciating what people were already doing and wanting them to get more recognition, because it's pretty exciting stuff. It's really unique, and it's good artwork. It's not just like, oh, this is cool because it's Arsenal. It's good artwork.
I don't think that there seems to be a dearth of folks who love to take a photo of any player on the squad and then just throw a Photoshop filter over it, which, fair play, if you're figuring things out, that's cool, and you're doing your thing. But we really wanted to hone in on people that had kind of a craft. And so I think that was really, really important to us in adding that element to the book. So yeah, I don't know if I actually explained what the book is, though.
Please feel free.
Yeah. So the book, basically what we did was we created a 20 or a 32, 33 page book about the trip and incorporated a lot of one-off artwork that these guys that we're discussing submitted to us. And so it's all the project was completely a one-off in every sense of it. Right, so the prints that we got from them, they are exclusive to this project, and the rest of it is made up of photos of the times we spent with the supporters groups that we met with along the way, and the week in New York. So
awesome. Yeah. I just to add into that, I love your artwork. I've taken a look through it, and even stuff that isn't in the book. And I really, yeah, I mean, it's really cool stuff. So if you're listening, get in touch with these folks and check it out.
Yeah. There's a bit of a sort of a sub question really to that previous question as well. Obviously, people who've been to the games recently or have sort of seen or followed things on social media, and that will be probably well aware that there's quite a lot of events that have spun off with regards to Arsenal artwork. There was some shows at Pinebury Corner quite recently. I was actually in and around when that was going on a while back. Sort of give us an idea of how you guys, or what sort of parts you played in getting your work sort of noticed in these sort of events as well.
Right, like Channelle referenced or mentioned earlier, so we did we have a local event called Art Hop, and it's essentially one Thursday a month. The first Thursday of the month, all the art galleries in town open, and they have kind of a reception from about 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And so we thought, as we were finishing our first season as a club, that we wanted to put on one of these Arsenal Art Hop. So what we did is we, like she said, got all the work together from all these artists that we had connected with. Initially, and that was back in May.
And put on the other ones.
What?
Who put on the other ones though?
Right, and that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. So we did that in May, and we had a guy, Dan, Op AA Dan, who runs the events at Pinebury Corner. He actually was one of the folks that contributed to that first art show. So we connected with him, and then he decided, hey, if they're doing it out in California, then we might as well be doing it in London. And then that also spawned kind of another art show in New York City during the Red Bulls weekend that was curated by Brian from 11 Cannons. So it's kind of been this like little, I don't want to take credit for starting it, but we didn't do the first one. So
don't want to take credit, but there's some credit that's due. I think it's fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. No, that's a good answer. So now, anything to sort of add to that about the sort of the worldwide escape? You must be quite proud knowing that you've got something that's started out as something that be a project maybe locally, and now it's pretty much around the globe, particularly on the club's doorstep.
Yeah, I think I was very surprised at how much attention it actually got. And being a newer Arsenal fan, I've always been a sports fan, but then I married Jordan, and it's like, you have no choice. You know, this is how it goes. And so
I made her become an Arsenal fan at gunpoint.
So no, but
that's what we like to do in America.
But really, it was like, it's really easy to enjoy soccer, and especially Premier League soccer. It's fun to watch. And then Arsenal, that once he showed me like Thierry Henry, like if you're introduced to Thierry Henry, then that's it. You're done. It's fine. And so I was really content with that. And I think we do art shows quite a bit. I mean, obviously that's kind of my job. So, and I've curated a lot and done that. And so it was really exciting for me. And I don't know, I didn't think of it as that big of a deal when these guys from New York and London or whatever, I'm like, oh, that's really great. Like, I'm glad people are into this too. And then when we traveled was when we really got to see kind of the effect that it had, and people who actually knew about it from social media, their response to the actual show that we went to in New York City, watching people kind of purchase this artwork and support these people, which as a working artist is kind of the dream, right? That other people would appreciate your work so much that they would want to own it. And so seeing that come to fruition was amazing.
Yeah, Brian, the show in New York, I think raised like $4,000, $5,000,
and they did for charity.
Wow. Right, and they donated all of it to one of their nonprofits that Brian likes. And so to see that's incredible, right? And it's all Arsenal themed artwork, so it's something pretty special.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I really love that story, and sort of you touched on the fact that it's become a global fan base. And with social media, and good and bad with social media, but this is a good
I was going to say, there's the other side of the coin
story.
too, right?
Yeah, because it's brought people together in their support for Arsenal and their love of art. So we're talking about bringing people together, but then you kind of step back a second. You go, hold on, Fresno to New York City. You mentioned just how far geographically that is in a car. And for those of us who knew you were making this trip across the United States, we were able to follow along a bit on Twitter. You guys would put out sort of these tweets, and there'd be a picture or two, or there'd be some music, I think, on the road. And then you'd sort of connect up with these network of supporters. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the supporters groups that you met up with?
Sure. So we visited 6 of them. So we did seven. We did Oklahoma City and Tulsa, Kansas City, Chicago, the Triangle down in North Carolina, New Orleans, Austin, Texas, and then finished with the Orange County folks,
and obviously
in California.
New York,
and obviously New York, and connecting with all them while we were there. So yeah, we visited quite a few of those folks, and really what's kind of incredible about it is when you email somebody that you don't know, and you say, I support the same football club that you support, and hey, is it cool if I just come over to your pub and stay in your city, and maybe we can hang out? And every single one of them was absolutely can't wait to see you. We'll have everything sorted out for you once we get here. And so that was pretty cool to see how hospitable folks were, right? And you can have this kind of sort of instant connection with people. You go immediately into laughing about how Flamini incessantly gets yellow or red cards within the first 10 minutes of conversation with somebody. And that's pretty cool,
It's awesome that we have that unique or that common background that we can follow upon, and that people were so warm and giving to you guys.
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys had a bit of fun on the road too, and certainly again following along on social media, it looked like you guys had a bit of fun. Do you have any cool stories you could share with our listeners?
Do you have a good one?
I mean, we were just treated so well. So well everywhere we went. And of course, this, football supporter lifestyle involves quite a bit of drinking. That's part of the, that's how you do it. You go and you drink, you're at the pub, you're excited, whatever. So, but, the worst thing about being hungover is that you have to get in a car the next day and drive somewhere. And so we just did that for a month straight. I mean, in Kansas City, we had a really great time. We stayed with Boys, and he runs the group there. And he ended up taking us to an MLS game.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Just really, but it felt kind of blurry the whole time. And just this, and in Chicago, we've been there several times now, and we love the Chicago Gooners so much.
Fantastic.
But I mean, you just
Channelle had a Jaeger haze essentially the entire time.
Wow.
They sent me home with a full bottle, and I was like, "This is ridiculous."
Yeah.
But overall, I think every day, and I mean, we ran over a semi truck tire one day, which took out our air conditioning, and that was pretty early on in the trip, and so we hit these things that could have been really bad. But think about every night ending up at a pub with people who are buying you drinks and want to hear about your story, and then you're talking and laughing about Arsenal, and so really every day, no matter how bad it was okay in the end,
Oh,
so,
I love it.
Yeah.
I haven't drank that much since college.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
I think my favorite story was the Chicago Gooners showing us. They have this little alleyway that they call the gangway of broken dreams. And so, and you have to, it's this one nondescript door that from their pub out to this little alleyway. And that's where they all kind of hang out and make jokes and drink and take smoke breaks. And it was just kind of cool to see the little different traditions that each club had. And there's tons of them. Each club has their different things that they do. And for me, that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it. There's a richness that comes through in the book when I was sort of previewing the soft copy that you guys sent me, and there's
Sure.
that richness in the photos that really comes through, and I can hear it in your voices. So if anyone, if anyone has ever driven across America, and I have probably about 6 or 7 times, and it's a fun trip, but middle of the summer, no air conditioning,
You're right.
Yeah.
husband and wife, hungover. How did you
Yeah.
not kill each other? Like, how did you stay
Yeah.
sane?
Oh my God.
There was some concern on my part that Channelle would bring a knife, and in my sleep, like,
Yeah, all the people that we were kind of talking with, like Brian from New York, who we've been in contact with a lot of the guys that we were, going to stay with throughout the trip, we'd all been talking for a month or two before we had, gone. And everyone was taking bets on which state we would be in that I would like physically harm him. And so I think they said we'd make it to Chicago maybe before, which was like 3 or 4 days in,
right,
and then he would be toast.
completely warranted if I'm honest, right?
Yeah, but I think we do really well in these kind of collaborative project environments. Like it's something that's creative and exciting, and both of us. I think Jordan had just finished a contract with the job that he was working at. So he was kind of free spirited at that point. He didn't have work to think about. And my work is, constantly creative. So I felt like I was still doing things that I could relate to. So I guess for us, it was about the project. And when you can like be really excited about the work that you're making, I don't know. It just makes things a little bit easier. Had we had like 4 kids in the back and we were going to see my parents, like I probably would shoot myself. But like that, that didn't happen. So it was really good.
We're thankful you're both still here.
Yeah.
I love it. Kris, I understand you've got a question for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got probably a couple kind of that I'll split into segments. But I want to talk a little bit about a passion that both of us share, and to be honest, probably the reason I'm piggybacking onto this one. I want to talk about tattoos. Obviously, anybody that's seen either of yourselves, or indeed me, I feel sorry for them if they've seen me, but that's another story. We'll know that both or all three of us are quite heavily into our tattoos and sort of artwork, so to speak. Channelle, you first. Obviously, you're a tattoo artist by trade, if you will. What sort of tattoos were involved in this process? Or tattoos that you either provided or were involved in during the creation of this process?
Yeah, so the artwork that I submitted was like a flash sheet, which is intended like in old school tattoo shops. You go in and you just pick something off the wall. And so I created this sheet that was supposed to be kind of ready-made tattoo. So, if you wanted to pick one off of there, it was a really easy thing. And I did a couple. Well, I did a couple before we left. I had seen people had seen the flash sheet kind of sitting at my desk at work. And they were like, oh, that's really cool. So I did I think 2 before we left, and then took it with me. And then we went to Oklahoma, and I tattooed the guy that we stayed. What was his name? Brian. And his wife got tattooed.
Kansas City.
And Kansas City. Oh, yeah. And Kansas City. Yeah. Denise got tattooed. See, this is literally blurry for me. I'm looking at Jordan tell me what I did. And then again in, was that it? Or no? Oh, I tattooed my sister and brother live in or my sister-in-law and my brother live in San Diego, so I tattooed her and her friend. But for me, the best, so I have a lot of tattoos. I'm pretty heavily tattooed, but I had 0 arsenal tattoos, not one on my body at all. Jordan has 5. I tattooed him 5. He has 5, 6 arsenal tattoos now, and I had none. And so for me, the best tattoo moment, I guess, was when we met up with Alex Mikwat on the last day in New York. And we had tried to contact him ahead of time, and just, our schedule was crazy. So I didn't want to, ask him for anything. But he came up to us after the five-a-side tournament and asked us if we were the people from Fresno. And I'm like, yeah, and I know who you are. This is ridiculous. And so he made time in his schedule the following day, right before we left. And he closed down his shop, and he's like, whatever you guys want, just tell me, let's do this kind of thing. Yeah. And so I have this beautiful AFC right on my front forearm, very visible for mom and dad. But just that moment was so cool because I felt like I had definitely solidified myself as a proper fan. Like it was time for me to wear it the way that I like to, you know, kind of show what I enjoy. And so he just was the coolest guy ever. And he's
total fangirl.
I am a fangirl, and I like took pictures with them and put them on my Instagram and did all that. But so I got to do a couple of tattoos, which was really special for me in connecting with the people that we were staying with, especially. I felt like that was something I could give them.
Contribute, yeah.
And give them that memory, and for me as well. But for me, that was, I don't know, the Gooner in it all kind of put us on this even playing field. You know, this guy's been doing it forever. I haven't been doing it that long, and, you know, we don't know each other, but because we're Arsenal fans, there was like just, I don't know, connection. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, that's quite a good word to use, actually, connection. Did you guys, obviously, when you got together, obviously you're married now, was the connection when you first got together, was there a link in the tattoo side of things, or was it just a fortunate mutual interest?
He had no tattoos, not a one.
You've converted
I've
him.
been getting tattooed since I was 17. Like my first one was illegal and whatever.
So we've only been married for 3 years.
Yeah.
Too. So like I played catch up kind of thing.
So basically we dated for like a month, 4 weeks. We've been dating for 4 weeks. And I said, I'm going to buy you your first tattoo. Mostly because I just couldn't stand that he didn't have any, you know? And I said, let's just go to the shop. We'll go to my guy. No big deal. And so he got his first one. And then since then, probably
like 3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months, I would just like, let's just go get another. Like, and now he just, anytime he feels like it, he's like, hey, do you have time for this? And I'm like, sure, why not? So, yeah. But yeah, it wouldn't have worked if he had been like, I don't really want any tattoos, you know? That would have been out.
Have you got, just on the same with I'll go to both of you for this one. It might be a bit difficult, and I know I get asked this all the time. 2 questions you get asked when you're tattooed is how many of you have you got and what's your favourite? So how many of each have you got and what are your favourites?
Don't bother counting.
My entire I was like I actually genuinely looked down at my arm and started counting.
I said,
don't bother counting. He's got one full sleeve. And then he's got about another half sleeve on the other arm. And then he's got one on his back.
Yeah.
So some of them were done in bigger chunks. And then some of them are like piecework, you know, like we'll do fill-ins every now and then or whatever. And then I would say I'm probably like 40% of my body is tattooed now. Yeah. So my sides, my shins, my back, my arms. Yeah, all of that. I don't know how many there are.
My fave is it's actually the latest one that I got. Channelle, as part of her flash sheet, did a really cool She Wore, as in she wore a yellow ribbon, the song and everything, and did this really beautiful kind of pinup, traditional pinup style, and that's actually my current favorite right now. It's pretty rad.
Yeah, usually whatever one is the most recent is like your favorite, you know, because that's what you're thinking about. So I just recently got a stick and poke from a friend of mine, like on my chest, and it's like a little fly. Anyway, I think that one's really cool. I love my AFC one though. That one has a lot of memories. Yeah.
I'm kind of ad-libbing here, but forgive me, Geoff, if listening in there. But another question that I love asking people that are tattooed, and again another one that I get asked all the time, is there one particular place that you've had tattooed where you thought, oh, that was actually a little bit tender?
Yeah, so I got the 1932 FA Cup crest tattooed on the base of my neck. It's like right on my spine, and it was akin to 1,000 bees stinging me while there was a rock of hot lava pouring over it at the same time.
He's
quite
so
sore,
dramatic. So dramatic.
It hurt like in hell. But maybe that just means I'm a baby, which is probably the truth.
He hated the inner arm too.
Yeah, I have actually the California flag on the inside of my arm, but it's reverse. So the actual the flag part is all shaded in, so it's like solid black. Where the bear, and then the bear is the space where there's nothing. So that was pretty tough too.
And you're obviously a lot more tough, Channelle. Have you got any areas that you particularly didn't like?
I have a really large Japanese traditional phoenix from about the top of my shoulder down to the middle of my thigh, and it goes over my rib cage and my back and all that. And that's sensitive. Anybody who's got rib tattoos will tell you that's sensitive. Yeah. But the one I got most recently was like on my sternum, in between my breasts. So like there's just not much there. But I mean, I like, you go into it knowing that tattoos hurt, right? Like, this is not rocket science. People are sticking needles in you for like a considerable amount of time. So yeah, and I think as I've gotten older, I'm way less like sometimes I just don't feel like it. Like, I just don't want to feel that today, you know? Yeah. Like, whereas when I was like in my early 20s, I was kind of like, oh man, I want to get a tattoo every day. I don't care how much it hurts. And now I'm just like, oh, I don't want to be in pain. So that's fine if I don't.
It is definitely a tough one, isn't it? I mean, from my personal experience, I'm 100% with you. Rib cage, and I've got one on my chest or my breastplate as well. And the collarbone is a particular tender area. But I'm going back for more. I've got 2 Arsenal tattoos. I've got the Arsenal sort of wording, if you like, on the outside of my forearm with the Victoria Concordia crescent underneath, and I've got the small old-fashioned A behind my left ear. But nice. I'm working on a piece to commemorate the Invincibles, which is going to go entirely down my left side of my ribcage. So that's going to be quite sore, I think it's fair to say.
Wow.
But
unpleasant.
Might have to give you guys a nudge when I come to designing that, because I'm sure that would be great. But before I bore our listeners to tears with tattoo stories, I've just got one final one before I hand back to Geoff. Tattoos in the States, sort of for sports teams. Obviously, over in the UK, tattooing has become it's become fashionable almost, and a lot of that is to do with American culture, programs like Miami Ink, that sort of thing. Over here, it's quite a fashionable thing and quite a regular thing to see people with sports tattoos, with football teams, with rugby teams, whatever it may be. Is that something that you notice a lot in the States now, particularly with English football teams as well?
Not particular. I think that it hasn't hasn't maybe taken off in the same way it has in the UK here. But I will say that folks that follow English clubs generally tend to be the more committed type. They're very. You have to have some level of commitment and kind of the ritual of following a club if you live here. And so I think the folks that are into soccer, it's a little bit smaller fan base, and those folks, because they're committed, they will be more prone to getting tattoos and that sort of thing. So, and there's something to be said about the history and tradition of football clubs, right? I mean, clubs are over 100 years old, whereas most of our sports teams were founded in the 50s or later, you know? So there's something, I think, pretty cool and significant about that, honoring that history and tradition to it.
But, everybody's got Green Bay Packer tattoos. Everybody's got fucking Yankee tattoos. Like, the Raider tattoos could probably outnumber any other sport tattoo on the planet. And that has a lot to do with just the culture of what the Raiders stand for and all. But yeah, NFL, NBA, MLS definitely, and baseball too. Yeah, it's just, I would say, you just don't see a lot of soccer necessarily, a lot of football, especially like English Premier League teams. I've done a couple myself, but and I've seen a couple, like definitely Man United, Liverpool, you know, the top tier, top 4 teams will have a little bit more exposure. But I mean, you should see the San Francisco tattoos that show up in our freaking city. It's fine. Like, it's fine because everyone's body is their own. But really.
Channelle tattooed one of our cousins, and he's a massive Liverpool supporter, and he got "You'll Never Walk Alone" on his chest. And I just sat there talking shit to him the entire time because that's really cute that you would get that.
I've done a couple Liverpool, a couple Man United, and people always ask like, "Oh, is that like offensive?" And I'm like, I don't think it's the worst thing someone could put on their body. I'm really convinced
you can have like Babs Bunny with like a little troll car going down the road.
Yeah, there are worse things, guys. There are worse things.
Oh man, I've really sort of enjoyed this little mini segment within the show, listening to tattoos, and some of the words I heard in there were tradition, history, commitment, pain, and arsenal, which all seem to be going hand in hand these days with our dear club.
Oh,
So it's a little segue there. Now, normally at this point, we would tell everyone where to go and buy your book, but that's not really the case here, as you guys explained. Instead, could you guys talk a little bit about what the legacy of the book means to you guys? And are there more art shows that you guys are planning? Are you planning on selling other art? You guys both mentioned that you're working artists. Are there any more books planned? What's next for you guys?
Right. So we've been kind of talking through doing something with this project, maybe like a supplementary piece that wasn't involved in the initial idea, just because the response we've gotten has been so positive. So we've been talking over maybe like a zine or something that uses the content that we weren't able to include in the book as something that we could make available for folks that maybe didn't get in with the Kickstarter. I think that for me, I'm almost kind of Arsenal obsessed, right? It takes up a lot of my day and brain space and thinking about things. And so I'm sure that another show or project or thing will come along the way. Just don't know when that's going to be. Hopefully, if we get into graduate school and are able to maybe head over to London next year, like we're planning on doing, something like that could happen. So maybe just submit for the next Operation Arsenal Art at Piebury Corner. I was in the first one, but was skipped out on the second one. So these things kind of happen, like we said, kind of more organically and naturally. And so just waiting for that right opportunity.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, I think we're always trying to think of the next thing, and Arsenal's a very big part of our life. And so for us, it just kind of comes in naturally. The best way to kind of find out what we're doing is on Twitter at Fresno Gooners. And we update that constantly and are, connected with a lot of other artists as well. So I think if you're interested in kind of following what we do, or, if you want to comment on what we do, that's totally fine. Or if you have questions about the book and maybe how we did it, or if there's certain pieces that you like and you want to get in contact with the artist that did it, we're so open to that kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, as soon as we make something cool, we'll put it out there. But we're still, it's
right.
We just finally we're able to send out everything, which, once you do a project like that, the editing work is also there and making sure it's as good as you promised it would be, And so we just finally kind of got a breath to say okay, that was, well done. Let's get that all taken care of.
We were counting on the actual time that from the idea to the finished product, the completion of the project, and it was about 7.5 months
of
work to put the book out. So just a small breather, and then we'll kick on with something else.
Yeah.
I think after 6,000 miles in a car, you guys are entitled to a breather.
Yeah.
And if you haven't, get following at Fresno Gooners.
And that's Fresno.
Fresno Gooners.
Fresno.
I think actually I saw the other day, Jordan, you just had a birthday. Happy birthday. I'm not sure if it was on the official account, but there was somebody in a bruised banana kit that that was pretty cool. So
I retweeted that a short time ago. It's a brilliant
very
picture.
good. So just one last thing before we go, and that's if you guys have any shout outs. So is there anyone that you would like to shout out to on the podcast?
Some of the greatest people, like we've mentioned, have been the folks that we've stayed with along the trip. And so the Sooner Gooners, Oklahoma City, Kansas City Gooners, Chicago, Arsenal NYC, Triangle guys, New Orleans and Austin, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So we couldn't have done the project without their input and hospitality. So shout out to them. It's fantastic. It's great.
Yeah. And I think we've mentioned all the artists that we worked with. Those would be what?
No, go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
See, this is what happens when you have both of us on. He's trying to tell me things. So 11 Cannons, VCC Designs, Alex McWatt, Artist Sport, and who else?
That's it.
That's
And
it. Yeah.
us.
And so they're all on Twitter as well, and they're constantly posting their work. And I think actually I just saw Artist Sport posted a calendar that's going to be out. That's got a good collection of work. That's really cool.
That's being put out by the Gooner fanzine. Mike over there is Mike Francis is putting that together.
So that's a cool thing to check out.
Yeah. And the Kickstarter folks. Without them, we absolutely wouldn't have been able to do it.
Which are mostly like, we had a lot of friends and family, but then we had a lot of random people that we didn't even know.
And that was one of the coolest things is to be able to get folks. We shipped books to Malaysia and Sweden and Germany and one to Hong Kong and probably 30 of the 50 U.S. states and the UK and guys in Manchester and London and all kinds of stuff. So that was really, really cool to see, like we were talking about before, that global response. So cheers to those folks.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So with that said, I've really appreciated our time together. I want to thank you guys for joining us, both Jordan and Channelle, from Fresno. It's nice to interview someone in my time zone. For one,
not having to get up at an ungodly
West
hour.
Coast. Yeah, that's right. But we've also kept Kris up a little bit late, and of course Danny is behind the scenes. No one's heard him, but he's pushing buttons behind the scenes, making things happen. So thank you to Kris and thank you to Danny. Pleasure. And that said, this has been an ABW book review for We All Follow the Arsenal. I've been Other Geoff, and thank our guests and just say good night for all. Good night.
Cheers, guys.
Good night, all.
And we are done.
Something kind of fun that I forgot to mention is we actually sent a copy of the book to the club itself, and so we got interviewed by Richard Clark, the man with the yellow hair. We got interviewed by Richard at one of the fan parties in New York, and so was able to kind of keep in touch with him over the last several months and let him know kind of how the project was going. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Carl, the guy who is in charge of the Arsenal player department, is going to get like Santi or Jack or Rambo to sign one of the books and send it back to us. So that's kind of
very,
cool.
very cool. Did we get that on recording, guys? Do you know, Kris?
Yeah, I'm still recording, so yeah.
I wonder if we can work
Just
that in.
Insert here.
The red light is on, so we're good to go.
We can have it. We can probably have it as an Easter egg, perhaps. Danny put it on the end, perhaps.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Let's see if we could get that in there because that's a really neat story.
I should have told that story.
That was but it hasn't happened yet.
That's
so
true.
Like you could just be like false hopes,
right?
You know, we're just down a book. That's really what happened.
The club, Arsenal Football Club, stole our book.
Oh, we don't want to go there these days.